Hello, this is Gene. I know it's been a while since I posted on YouTube, but there's been a lot of things going on in my life. Unfortunately, it's been health related. Um, as those of you who watch this channel know that I had a cancer in my bladder, and was it almost 2 weeks ago, I got um, a biopsy. Now it came back as negative, but what I have is I can't say the word, but it's interstitial cystitis. Basically, it's like a, it's a bladder disc condition that can be really bad, and it's basically a chronic inflammation of your bladder. So imagine if obviously you're human and you're watching this, that if your bladder was inflamed all the time, that it's going to be kind of like not very it'll be painful at some point. Now, my condition right now is a mild form of it. Some people who have it have to pee, or at least try to pee, like up to 60 times a day, and the pain can be very, very debilitating. What I have is a aching thing in my bladder area, right below my navel, and I can feel it right now. It's there. It doesn't like do anything other than that. At night, I can feel it even more, be a little bit more painful. I can still get through the night. So right now I'm trying to figure out a way to manage it so it doesn't get worse. This thing is one of those normally only affects women, and it's only like 0.5% of the population that deals with this. I didn't know anything about it till my first biopsy that I had back in February. I've had 3 since that, or 2 since that, and each time it comes back negative, then it says I have the same thing, that I have chronic inflammation. So I didn't think I had any of this before I had my bladder cancer. I think that I don't think it's good to keep putting shit inside your urethra into your bladder every 3 months. And if you have a bladder that is sensitive, that maybe this started. Obviously, if I didn't do anything when I first had this sign of bladder cancer, and I just let it go because, I figured I'd be better once my urine got clear. Because when I had it, I had a rusty-looking urine. If I didn't do anything, I guess that the bladder cancer could have spread, and then I'd be in a lot worse position right now. Although what I had was the very, very, very lowest type of it, like almost precancerous. So I don't know. I mean, nobody knows why it happens, and there's no cure for it. All you can do is try to manage it. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. So I was going through a lot of different things, depression, because when you think you're feeling a little bit better, but you can still feel something down there, you think there's other things going on. And I still have one more CT that I have to do for my abdomen. I will hopefully, it's just, all I'm feeling is basically the bladder. And I'm just feeling off there, the pain from it and the rest of my bladder. And when you look on this online, you see that people that have you'll feel pain in your pelvic area, and that's where I have it. So it's not that bad. There's maybe a 3 out of 4. It's similar to the pain that I've had in my back for the last 20 years. So it's almost like just moved from my back to the front, and now I have it all around my body in that area. So I'm going to try to find a way. There's a couple of books that I'm going to look at, some way to deal with it in a holistic way. So I've been pretty much taken off of Twitter. I'm just not really getting involved. It's just not, when I go this way, I have to be more focused on myself. I've said on this channel many times that you have to be an advocate for yourself because no one else will be. As much as people want to be your friend, your wife wants to be your friend, you're the one who has to go in and get these tests done and continually advocate for yourself. My wife thinks I have this kind of condition right now that I think everything's going to be bad. And I told her this morning, I said, look, if I didn't advocate for myself 20-something years ago, I probably would be dead with lymphoma. So I will continually do it, and if it causes me some pain, some mental anguish, I'm going to continually do it. But the reason why I want to just talk about what today was because something happened the last day. I got on the internet. I watch or I follow Red Pill Tweets. He's a MGTOW kind of. He's anti-feminist. You know, I've been following him for a long time. He has decent subscriber count on YouTube, well over 100,000. But recently he's become a flat earther. Now, I actually looked at this stuff. I'm like, you know, because my spiritual awakening has been the last 18 months. I've found myself be a little bit more tied to the idea of a creator. And I watch certain things on YouTube. And I think there's something after. I've always said this to my kids since they were young, that I think that energy moves on. I think that science pretty much tells us that. Now, is that energy, is that conscious? We don't know. But there are certain things I watch and certain things I've seen in my life that lets me believe that there's a creator. And, you know, whether if Jesus had anything to do with it, or Muslim, not so much the religious side of it, but I believe there's something more than just this. And when I started looking at flat Earth, I like the idea that the idea in the Bible talks about the firmament and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting stuff. And if we are just this special place in the galaxy or whatever, that it'd be kind of cool, you know. You know, I worked in space though, so I knew they were so. Let me try to explain this. So he said something out there. You know, he puts a tweet out there about something about the flat Earth. And I said, look, I want to understand more about this. I said, but all their videos that are online, the guys that have the biggest following on YouTube, they say that space isn't real, that we didn't land on the moon, that satellites are not real. Now, I'm like, I worked with satellites in the Air Force. And I'm thinking, and I'm trying to explain to him as much as I can, because since my stroke, it's hard for me to just explain all this stuff. But I was a TDO, which was a tracker and also a data collector. So I had to acquire the satellite when it came over our tracking station, and I had to view it through different things. And he's like, oh, you're looking at things on a screen and you're looking at numbers. I'm like, no, I had oscilloscopes, and I had to look at the actual telemetry that was coming down so we could actually track it. And then I would record the information to send out to the users. You know, it was NOAA stuff, so weather shit. It was very important. And how it, you know, the geometry of how the satellite comes over your view of field. It's all 100% when you put geometry to it. It's coming down. It's 100% that it shows that we live on a sphere. So, and every day, or every 90 minutes or so, it would come back in view. And then because we wobble a little bit, it kind of changes over how it goes. So sometimes we'll miss it. We're in a stationary tracking site, and you got this thing going over, but the way that we move on their axis, sometimes the Earth kind of moves a little bit, so we miss them on one of them. And if you look online, it shows how it does this shit. But anyway, so I tried to actually send some of this stuff to him, and, you know, a little like a user guide of what I did there, and it shows this with pictures and not articles, but like charts and stuff. It shows how that we actually acquire and all that stuff. Now, he never really responded to that, but he kept saying, did you actually see this? Or are you just looking at things on a screen? Have you actually seen a launch? Have you ever seen the satellites go over? And I said, yes, I've seen all this stuff. There were times when I wasn't covering the pass, and I could go outside, and it was really nice. If it was really nice night, and it was in Spokane, it was basically, it's not like being in areas in the country that it's so polluted, especially back 30 years ago. Is that 30 years ago now? 25 years ago? And no, it's 30 years now. Good God, I'm so old. So you could actually see the satellite. You could actually see it coming across. And, this idea that when they see something from NASA saying that we need to move from LEO, a low Earth orbit, to get to the next place, to get to the Mars and stuff, they're talking about manned flight. They're not talking about satellites. And the fact that we've got probes that have been on Mars, that have been on all the different planets out there. We have satellites actually going around the outer planets. They're thinking it's all some sort of conspiracy going on right now, and because NASA gets $20 billion a year, which is minute when you talk about the size of our government and how much we spend. But he was very respectful to me. He just asked me questions. But another guy came in, and at the end of the day, he basically said that people who served in space, that we just followed orders, that we're autonomy or Ottomans, that we don't know, that we just follow orders and we just doesn't matter what's coming on. That everybody that's down the line, all this money that's been made from the private sector, cell phones and all that stuff, had nothing to do with space. That they're trying to tell me that all data is coming under the water, which is true. The phone lines and all that stuff was done years ago under the Atlantic. So there's part of that is true, but it has nothing to do with space. But again, I will listen to this type of stuff. I've always, as much as I know that we land on the moon, clearly I knew we did this. There are some conservative conspiracies that I will listen to, and I'll say, well, maybe there's something to it. But the idea that when someone really doesn't have an argument about this, and I try to be as respectful as I can, and then they come back and say something like that and basically insult me and the people that have been in space, and because that we're stupid, that we're sheep. And so I basically said, you're basically leftist right now. You're living in your own echo chamber. And I guess you're upset because 99.9% of the population knows that we live on a sphere, that somehow that insults you, so you think it's okay to insult other people. I never would have said anything like you're an asshole because you believe in the flat earth. I don't really care if he believes that. I'm just trying to say the issue I have is when I look at this stuff, and I've listened to a lot of this. ODD on YouTube has got over 200,000 subscribers. There are people that believe this stuff, and I listen to it, and I listen to most of it, but when they get to the part where they say that space isn't real, and that the sun is smaller, and it's just it's not true. It's not factual at all. And they're like, well, there's no curve. It takes a lot people think that the Earth is only basically 500 miles in concern, I can't say a word. But anyway, they think that they're going to see further enough, and then we'll see the curve. It takes a long time for that curve to actually start happening. Now, I know I get the old thing. We're just going through space, going millions of thousands of miles an hour, and we're spinning, but we're not really spinning. So the brain is like, oh, I can't really. I get all that. I do. When you look out loud, it looks like we're in a flat Earth. That makes sense. But there is a reason why that you have math and physics, and you have science that we can actually prove this stuff, and they think that it's never been proven. Well, every day that satellite comes over and I'm taking data from it, and every day it's a predictable thing that it's going to come right here, it's going to be in my field of view for that amount of time, and there's only way I can actually, now there's different ways. You can set up a program so that you think that under the using the math and all that stuff, that we think that the satellite's going to be here. So you put a program right there, then it comes up, and then you wait till you actually get on it and you hit something, and that makes auto track. So at that point, you're not using the program anymore. You're using what's coming down from the satellite because it's a better gauge of it. And at the same time, we're updating that stuff. So the next time it comes over, it'll be even better. And now, can you watch it? Use that that entire program track to do it? You can, but normally you'll lose a little of it. And I can just tell you this much, is that it's a big deal if you can't take down that data, because this is very important stuff, especially when we talk about the weather shit. And this is in the 80s and early 90s. If you missed it, then you would get a critical error. If I was a tracker and I couldn't track the satellite and I did something wrong, then I would lose my certification and have to be retrained to get back down to it. I didn't go into, they're trying to say that, because I said this thing about my entire career. I said, look, I was a tracker, and then I collected data and I sent it out to users, and I saw these things, and I've been to launches, and then later in my life, I was working with classified stuff, and I cataloged stuff for what's in space. Because another thing, they don't believe that there's 10,000 vehicles in space. What I mean by that is that there's space junk, satellites, other things that are there that are going around our Earth, and they clearly are, because you have to do crash avoidance when you launch up a satellite. There were times that you're ready to go and you can't go because the avoidance says that you can't go right now. So and the fact is that several things come out of the sky every couple days that either get burned up in the atmosphere or they hit somewhere. So it makes no sense to me. I'm like, I was thinking maybe there's a way that they think that if you're flat Earth, that we can still do this, but and again, I'm opening. I want to understand more things, and I want to be respectful of these guys. But this is all the same thing. They don't trust the government for anything, and I don't like any. I don't trust the government either. I get it all. But when they start saying stuff like this, and when they go that far, and they say stupid shit like, well, you can't see the ship going over the horizon, but then when you use a telephoto lens that you'll see it. Well, that's just, you can go, seriously, you can go 30 or 300 miles. If you could actually see it, if we as humans could actually see it, we'd still be able to see that. It takes a long time before you actually makes that turn to where the curvature happens. That the math is not on their side, and they're trying to say they don't have any proof, that we don't have any proof that we live on a sphere. Yeah. And they think everything is CGI. Like, apparently we had this back in the early 90s or 80s, that all you ever see online is that they show these artist rendition of the satellites. I'm like, did I show exactly where they built these stuff, and these are people working on it? I guess those are not real. So why would they? It makes no. If we were making trillions of dollars from the government to have a fake NASA and all this other shit, that'd be one thing. But $18 billion a year is not enough. And then stupid people from NASA say, well, we lost the ability to get back to the moon. That's just stupid shit. But when you look at the entire interview, they're talking about the idea that we got to the moon basically from a 64K computer. And these computers that would take up this entire house. And we have obviously trillions of dollars, trillions of more computing right now, and we can't really use that because it's not the same type of thing. Can we get back to the moon? Of course we can. We just went to Mars. It makes absolute sense but they're not talking about that when we have people in that they're trying to learn how to deal with man flight from Earth to Mars. It's not going 4 or 5 days to get to the moon. This is a different type of thing. Getting to Mars is months, and being able to deal with that, and we have to go with the radiation, all that stuff that might happen. I just don't get this. Now, I get it. I do, but when they're left, they're locked so much in their own echo chamber, and they do it because they think that the rest of the world is wrong, and they feel that they're being oppressed or whatever. So so this guy wants to win a battle with me on Twitter. So the last one I said to him, look, you can win this battle on Twitter. It doesn't make you right, and you're just to insult people that serve this country. And made this world a hell of a lot better in a lot of ways. When you talk about the space program, I mean, the idea, the stuff that we've got from the space program, it has just improved so many things. Now, a lot of ways it hasn't. I mean, because they're also part of the granddaddy of social media, because without that shit, you wouldn't have, I mean, satellites, everything around. You have to have this. But anyway, so that's what I had to talk about. Now, there's a lot of things going on in the world. I've already been in here for like 20 minutes. So just let me know, is there anybody that follows me, that listens to my videos that are flat earthers, I would like to talk to you guys from a respectful way. Anyway, if you don't have you just can't make an assumption. You just can't sit there and say, because I've been duped. Because the rest of society has been duped for all this time, because we live on this flat earth, that what we're seeing is not real, that they talk about what they see here right in front of them because it looks flat, but I'm looking at everything else on the flat earth, looking at the other evidence, working in the position that I did, knowing that this is the only way it could possibly be done. There is no way that the Air Force and NOAA decided that, well, every 90 minutes, we're going to pay you to sit there, track this person, pay these other people to command the satellite, so the next time it comes over, it'll give us different information from other parts of the world. And then when something happens to the satellite that needs to be fixed so it doesn't go into our atmosphere and then end up hitting somebody, and then we had to change it and all that stuff, that was all fake. Just because somebody had a computer monitor in front of them, well, maybe those people that commanded the satellites didn't have what I had, but I'm the guy that acquired the satellite when it came up. They call it acquisition, and I tracked it all the way to it was out of view. And it correlates with a spherical thing that the math is 100% right. We live on a sphere, straight up. Anyway, you guys, thank you for watching this, and we'll talk to you guys later. Again, I'm willing to have that conversation in the comments. And if anybody wants to talk to me about Flat Earth, or wants to talk about it from me, and I give my stuff, any people from the Flat Earthers that want to talk to me, I will talk to you. But we'll do it respectfully. That's it. You guys have a good day. Bye.